Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Rhian, Developer Relations Advocate at Boson Protocol, and I'd like to welcome you all to our dCommerce Meetup number 8. So our special theme tonight is governance and DAOs, specifically our own Boson Protocol signaling DAO, which we've just launched. So to kick us off, we have a keynote presentation by Scarlett, Zhang, our Head of Risk Management and Compliance, together with our Governance Advisor, Marina Markezic, followed by a panel which includes our founders, Justin Banon and Gregor Borosa, along with Marina again, and we're thrilled to welcome back our advisor, Primavera de Filippi, for the panel as well. And finally, I'll be hosting a fireside chat with Mike Charalambous of Thridium, with whom we've just announced a fantastic partnership. So one of the most important things I need to tell you is that we are having this meetup in Decentraland as well as Crowdcast. So we've put the link in the sidebar in the chat. Come and join us in Decentraland. Nothing better than a DAO meetup in Decentraland. Also, if you're joining us in our event space in Decentraland tonight, you'll find an exclusive POAP to celebrate the DAO launch. That's all the intro done. So first of all, Scarlett and Marina are going to talk about the DAO, the milestones we're setting, and why we want everyone to get involved. One of the themes they're going to introduce is governance structure, and I'll leave it up to them to explain the rest.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. Can you see this okay?
Yes, all good.
Perfect. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here with you today, a very special occasion for us. Marina and I are going to share with you the launch of our Boson Protocol DAO. There has been a lot of work and thinking done in our governance working group last year. One of our key strategies is to secure a sustainable decentralized organization. At Boson, as we build future commerce that is fair and equitable, the Boson Protocol DAO is the first step towards our path to full decentralization. And we are calling each and every one of you in our community today to help us build a community-run decentralized commerce ecosystem. First, I'm inviting Marina, our governance expert who has been with us since the very start, advising us on governance and legal matters. Marina will share with you the thinking behind our governance design principle and our strategy. Over to you, Marina.
Thank you so much, Scarlett, and thank you everyone for joining this meetup. It's a very important day for us. As Scarlett said, we've been working on this for a long time, and we are very excited that the first day of the DAO launch is here and you can be a part of it. So maybe for the beginning, I would like to tell you a little bit more about decentralization and why it matters, why it is so important to us. You can think back 20, 15 years before blockchain, before we had this infrastructure that allowed us to do and work on DAOs and build new systems. Or you can imagine the platforms that we know from the Web3 ecosystem. They are closed and centralized with a small number of people, CEOs, making decisions on how those platforms would operate. And there is a very limited distribution of the value on those platforms. But luckily, with the technology and also with good practices that we have today, of course, some years and some has passed from the first DAO. So we do have some, I think, very interesting learnings. We can work on projects that are more open and, of course, decentralized, where the community is in the center of these platforms, and they can also have ownership of the value of the platforms, of the protocol. It is very important that those projects are empowering the community. They've seen as equitable and, of course, sustainable over time. On the next slide, we can tell you a little bit more about our values and our principles. Those are very important. And what I can tell from first experience is that they're not only written on paper. We really live those principles, and we do build them and design with those principles the governance strategy, but also the technical part and other parts of the Boson Protocol. The fair and equitable distribution of ownership, value, and control is the most important part. And as I said before, we know and we are very much convinced that we can build this through decentralization. The capture resistance from centralized extractive entities is also something that we are very much focused on. And as I told before, very different from the existing Web2 platforms, where community ownership and operation, we start with it today. Of course, there's a big community, but with today's launch, we give you the opportunity to be a part of the decision-making of how this Boson Protocol is going to evolve over time. And of course, a very important part is the regulatory compliance with legitimate authorities. This is a part where we also spend a lot of time and a lot of effort on, and it's very important for our long-term success. Right now, we are a startup. We started as a startup. We are growing very rapidly. We are also hiring new people, new talent, and our long-term strategy is to become a decentralized organization. This is, again, an important part and an important way how we come to this point. On the next slide, we'll share our strategy. So this is a very important part because it allows us to build a very important core components within the DAO. So the core protocol and the core components are going to be built within the DAO, but at the same time allowing the ecosystem to build some of their own ideas or build maybe some of their own organization within the protocol. This is called a hybrid approach. This is how we call them, is a combination of the ecosystem and of the DAO approach. And it is our governance strategy for the future of the Boson Protocol. Let me tell you a little bit more about both approaches, about the DAO and the ecosystem approach. So how do they work? The DAO approach is very useful because it allows us to have an effective control over a protocol. So the DAO can govern a protocol, and this is how we can have stability and in a way, predictability of how the protocol is going to evolve over time. And at the same time, it gives us coherence, transparency, and within the governance system, we can also build meritocracy. But at the same time, we also can see some negative effects or some maybe cases that are not best governance cases, where we can see the lack of experimentation and of also inefficiency. Sometimes it happens that there is something very important to fix, maybe a bug or something similar. And in these cases, DAOs can be also quite slow. On the other hand, we have the ecosystem approach, which allows for different organizations to make decisions. And at the same time, it is a marketplace to promote innovation. So we can have many organizations, different groups, communities, individuals building new ideas in the protocol. And then maybe in the future, we could also see those ideas becoming a part of the core protocol. But at the same time, we have maybe some things that are not optimal, even in the ecosystem approach. There's a lack of coordination and a lack of consistency and coherence. So this is why we chose to take the best of both approaches for our long-term governance strategy.
And the Genesis DAO of Boson Protocol starts at a signaling phase. The goal of the signaling DAO is to make the community's voice heard, open the contribution and discussion to the community, grow their knowledge about Boson Protocol and about our DAO, and ultimately we want to foster a purpose-driven and committed global community which is one of the key principles that Marina highlighted earlier. The decision-making in the form of a DAO will become progressively more decentralized in governing Boson Protocol. And as a start, the community will be able to vote on snapshot for a range of topics. You get to select our Boson ambassadors, vote for ecosystem grants for open innovation, and also contribute to our metaverse commerce roadmap. So what is the governance process? It starts with new proposals like grants applications, ambassador applications, or any other topics. And then the discussion phase will happen on Discord governance DAO channel, and then during our recurring governance calls. And the voting phase will be on Snapshot. We will give a time window to the community to vote, and then we will determine if consensus has been reached, whether we have a majority support from the community. The team will signal that the proposal has been accepted, and then the last phase is execution. For those of you who are not so familiar with Snapshot, it's an off-chain voting tool. So you head to the dao.bosonprotocol.io or search Boson Protocol DAO on Snapshot, connect your wallet in the top right corner, and there is a list of supporting wallets for you to select. Connect the wallet provider where you hold your Boson tokens, and then select the active proposal for you to vote on. After you read the proposal, select your preferred choices and then vote. Your wallet will prompt you to sign a message. It's gasless, and then it will submit your vote. Now in this session, we're actually asking you to join us on Snapshot during this meetup to do our first community voting. You'll see on Snapshot, the question is, what would our community like to see more of in 2022? And from the DAO, there are 4 options: more visibility of our core team, more giveaways, more partnerships with brands, hosting fun community-led events with Boson, not just governance Boson related, but purely for our community. So let's see at the end of today's meetup how many members have joined our Snapshot and how the voting is trending. Lastly, just call to action. Please join us. There are a number of ways. On Discord, the Governance DAO channel, start a conversation, ask any question, governance related, proposal related, join our future governance calls, head to our Notion page to learn more about our proposals, the latest program updates, and also DAO related knowledge. We have a knowledge center there for you to read on, and then vote on Snapshot. We're very excited to have you as part of this journey. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Scarlett and Marina. Great presentation. The voting link will appear in the chat. Somebody will put it in there. So please get involved, vote. It's a great occasion. We're all really happy to be part of this. We're now going to say goodbye to Scarlett, but not to Marina, and welcome back the rest of our awesome panel. To cut down on intros, I'm just going to ask everyone who speaks to just say a little bit about themselves as they answer the first question, to save me repeating a lot of information about them that they already know. So I'd like to start with Justin. It's great to have you here. Today's event is a really important moment for us, so it's brilliant to hear directly from our founders about what this first step in handing over some decision-making power to the DAO means to you. It's been a real journey to get to this point. How does it feel, Justin?
Well, thanks, Rhian. So yes, I'm Justin, one of the co-founders. It feels a little bit like a child. As a child kind of grows from being very dependent and then starts to take those kind of first steps of independence on that journey to kind of be this independent sort of person or entity that it's destined to be. And you know, for Gregor and I, you know, the co-founders, Boson was always sort of founded on a purpose, and that purpose was to create a world where, you know, commerce was a fair, open, and equitable endeavor, rather than us kind of continuing on this trajectory where the, you know, the fruits of commerce are increasingly captured by the few. And so in order to achieve that purpose, Boson has to be decentralized. And we're sort of going through these stages of startup where we're highly centralized and we're just like really any other startup, to then sort of scale up now as we're, you know, starting to see lots of adoption on top of Boson, with apps being developed and all these sort of partnerships. And then on to its ultimate sort of destination as a decentralized organization. So these, you know, this stage of the signaling DAO is a really important first step, if you like, towards that end goal that will enable our purpose. So hugely proud and a huge sense of progression and purpose.
Great. Yes, it's been a really exciting week for us all. I'll turn to Gregor now. Just introduce yourself, if you wouldn't mind, Gregor. And then also, I wanted to ask you, what's the significance of the DAO launch to you? I know you're very passionate about decentralization as a principle, so just like to get your thoughts on what it means.
Yeah, hi all. So I'm Gregor, co-founder based in Slovenia. I'm really excited about the steps we're making. It's also, in essence, the only known way for us to achieve our vision. And oftentimes it feels like Boson protocol being like this huge machine weighing like 1,000 tons that's magnificent to look at and has all these whistles and wheels turning and engines puffing and all. But we've heard in connection to us about the flywheel effect and how hard it is to initiate such a machinery before it starts running in its fascinating way. So commerce looks easy, or at least easy to understand at first glance, but it has a large surface area with many big and small challenges. And even in such research or initial design phases, you can see contributions from wider and wider circle of people. And I think DAO is a fundamental part of Boson. What is crystal clear from for some time now is that progressive decentralization is the best way to get us there. At this stage of Boson, it requires lots of coordination between strategy, product development, partners, and also community, increasingly more community, which is great. However, every action that we take, even now, we always have DAO inside. So in practice, this means that while some steps that we are making are harder or slower now that compared if we would be satisfied with going a traditional legacy centralized way. But the time and energy that we're putting into the DAO area now will bear fruit soon enough. And it's really an important and inevitable path for Boson to start with the signaling DAO, in my opinion.
Beautifully said. Thank you, Gregor. And I think that sums up how we all feel about it. I'd like to welcome back Dr. Primavera de Filippi. Thank you so much for joining us again, Primavera. For those of you in the community who weren't with us last time, Primavera joined our Discord chat a couple of months ago and kindly shared her knowledge with us. I'd like to ask you a slightly different question, Primavera, and do please introduce yourself before you answer. 2021 really was the year of the DAO, and it looks like things are moving even more quickly this year. Obviously, there's an ongoing movement to align how DAOs work with the existing legal structure in different countries, and that's challenging. Can you give us some of your insight, please, into how this is taking shape?
Yeah, hi. I'm Primavera. I'm a legal scholar at the CNRS and at Harvard, and I'm focusing mostly on the legal challenges and the governance opportunity of blockchain, and I'm an advisor at Boson. Yeah, so to answer the question, I will say that 2021 was the year of DeFi, which is actually DAOs that do not actually care so much to interact with the legal system, and I think the year of the DAO might be 2022, and because we're already seeing like there is a lot of projects that are emerging and that actually have this eagerness of interacting with existing institutions and finding an interface with the legal system. And I think there is like one big problem today is like, despite potential, there is still like some kind of reluctance because it is unclear how a DAO can actually be recognized as a legal entity. And we have, on the one hand, we have Vermont and we have Wyoming, which have enacted those specific DAO bills, which provide some kind of limited liability to the extent that the DAO is incorporated, and all students then with the possibility of using the smart contract as the article of incorporation and the bylaws. But then there is the secondary question, which is the limited liability. So to which extent are the DAO members liable for the activity of a DAO? And this comes from the issue that if there is no legal entity, if there is no legal recognition, then a DAO can be regarded as a general partnership, meaning that all the members might be liable for all the DAO's actions and obligations. And again, Wyoming actually provide a solution, which is to shield the DAO members from personal liability from the action of the DAO to the extent that the DAO is actually incorporated. But this comes with very important limitation because the DAO needs to be incorporated in Wyoming. And this doesn't provide recognition to DAOs that are not registered to begin with. And of course, if a DAO wants to be a DAO, then it should be able to operate without the need to incorporate. And at the moment, we still have problems in terms of, for instance, like how does a DAO can open a bank account, or how can a DAO contract with specific service provider in other states than Wyoming. And the issue is that we constantly need this kind of legal avatar that is taking the whole of enabling the DAO to interact with other legal entity. And there needs to be still some kind of work in order to identify how DAOs can be recognized in a more general sense. How can we provide some kind of legal personality and partial limited liability? And this is a work that we are doing with Koala, with the DAO model law, and more jurisdictions are actually also becoming very interested about the extent to which a non-registered DAO can be recognized by the legal system.
Sorry. Minor technical problem. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, that was a very well-timed technical problem because you disappeared momentarily and reappeared just as Prima had finished. So perfectly timed.
Thank you. Yes, I think it's the night of gremlins, because I've just heard that Marina is just reconnecting her laptop. So my next question was going to be for Marina. But I just follow up Primavera. But could you just tell us a little bit about the work you're doing with Koala, just briefly?
Yes, Koala is this international organization, and we're working on what are the existing pressing issues that DAOs encounter. And so in the past years, we've been focusing specifically on the question of legal recognition and how can we, on the one hand, how can we create systems that, like how can we help policymakers actually implement specific legislation that enable non-registered DAO to interact with the legal system, because they can, assuming that they do fulfill specific requirements, they could benefit for some degree of legal recognition. But so legal gateways, meaning that, for instance, if there is a DAO that needs to transact, that needs to contract a specific entity, then creating some actual legal entity that act as a service provider to the DAO, and that enable the DAO to interface with the legal system via this way. But the legal system only needs the legal personality of those legal gateways, and then there is the actual smart contract relationship that exists between the gateway and the DAO. And so it's kind of like fragmenting the various functions of DAO. So you don't need to incorporate a DAO into one legal entity. You just need a series of legal entities that are pre-incorporated and that are specifically designed to fulfill a particular function, and that are capable of interacting both from the legal system in a traditional way, and also interacting on the back end with a more technological framework with the various DAO that wants to benefit from those functions. So that's kind of like the two different approaches that can be adopted, and it's an ongoing work. So now we're actually trying to create awareness about those various solutions and communicating with policymakers and regulators in order to try and see whether we can inspire some regulation that is more accommodating to the current designs of most of the existing DAOs.
Great. That's such an enlightening answer. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us. And following on from some of Primavera's points, Justin, about the different approach, not just in different countries, but in different states, in the case of the US. You're talking to people all the time in different organizations in different countries. What do you think the current sentiment is around DAOs? Do you think people are starting to understand their promise? And what are your hopes for the Boson DAO?
Yeah, I mean, great question, Rhian. I mean, I think firstly, I mean, DAOs are something that I know myself, Gregor, Marina, I've been, studying for some years and reading a lot of what Prima has been writing for some years. So they're not, for us, they're not that new, and they've always been this kind of, new organizational forms with amazing prospects. But I think what we're seeing now is that people are aware of like this kind of practical utility of DAOs. Like a great example was that sort of constitution DAO of, groups of people, communities of people aligned around a common goal, which could be quite tightly focused, getting together, and that a DAO is like a really efficient funding and organizing mechanism. And of course, they can be much, much more. I mean, I think, the future of, kind of human organization is DAOs are going to be a massive part of that. But I think we're just really seeing the practical implementation of DAOs as, these organizations. In terms of, hopes and expectations for the Boson DAO, well, this will be the means by which the community will organize itself and govern itself. As we stated, our purpose is to bring about this kind of fair and equitable kind of commerce ecosystem, and that can't be done either via sort of central ownership or by huge amounts of central control. So it's a kind of, for us, it's the mechanism by which we can kind of hand over the reins for the community to govern itself, and also ensure that the incentives are between the community and Boson are aligned in perpetuity.
Great answer. And Gregor, picking up on Justin's point about DAOs being the way people organize themselves, let's think about the human for a minute. What's your advice to anyone who wants to participate in a DAO? We've read a lot recently about DAOs giving people the opportunity to live a different kind of life. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree with that full-heartedly, and it's not just words. I think it really has a lot of weight behind it. I think it goes without saying that lots of things in this space happen through community and with community and also for community. And so, for example, getting rewards for participating in a DAO is both nice and healthy and fair, but it's also not just about rewards. I think, I'm sure Boson will ultimately be DAO driven. So right now, here's an opportunity to grow Boson Protocol together from its early beginnings. And early participation usually means better and deeper understanding of its inner workings. And in time, most things become more complex and harder to understand. So very practically speaking, it's easier to engage soon and grow both your personal knowledge as well as help contribute to collective intelligence. DAO is a different kind of life. Well, we can already smell the coffee, and I think I'm just about starting to taste it. For some, it's already a reality. For those the bravest, I'm not so brave, but I am leaning towards that edge. In my opinion, and I really mean it, DAO life or DAO-led life is one of the things with really high impact or really high potential impacts on humanity. The society is always changing now quite rapidly, and these new principles are now materializing in front of our eyes, and I'm having high expectations both personally and with Boson as well of this tech. Yeah, why DAO, and that's another story, but I'm a big believer in it.
Inspiring words. Thank you, Gregor. And Primavera, back to you. A very specific question. We've thought very deeply about how we make the transition. And of course, the signaling DAO is just the first step. In your experience, is this kind of incremental approach the recommended path rather than the big bang approach where everything just launches at once? What do you think and why?
Yeah, I'm a strong proponent of this incremental approach. I have a friend that actually studies open source community and says that the benevolent dictator is always the best governance structure until it doesn't work anymore. And I think it's actually quite it's quite a good illustrative thing, which is you never know when is it that it's not going to work anymore. But to begin with, you cannot begin in a fully decentralized system because you need the vision of the founders, and you need people that actually start creating an MVP with a core team, which need to be like fast and efficient, and there needs to be a lot of beta testing and improvement. And it's very difficult to build something when immediately you need to reach this like large consensus. And in fact, you don't even have the community in the beginning. So but then of course you have this adoption that comes into play, and then the needs evolve, and there is a point, and it's always hard to know when these points arrive, in which decentralization becomes necessary in order to maintain the legitimacy of the system. And this is usually when people start actually leveraging the technology that is being built, when people start building stuff on top of the infrastructure, and then decentralization becomes a prerequisite. Otherwise, they will no longer want to build on top of this infrastructure. One, because there is always the risk of creating a walled garden, and of course no one has a desire of contribute to a closed system that will then appropriate the value of your contribution. Second, because it is important to actually provide some kind of guarantees that the system will not break, and that it will change, that it will not change without providing some kind of backward compatibility, so that whatever system they are building on top of the infrastructure will continue to operate as expected. And also, finally, third, because there is this, as people become more and more engaged and contributing, then they actually feel part of the community, and there might be this feeling of not being included in the governance of something that they actually have been spent a lot of time to contribute. And so this kind of hybrid approach, I think, is very interesting because it enables to start in a very fast and lean manner, but then also slowly, as adoption comes in, slowly decentralize in order to give more agency to the community member. And I think the interesting aspect is always like to always show that you always have a way as a community member to intervene, even if you might not want to do it to begin with. And so, for instance, like the launching the DAO with the snapshot, I think is a very nice way of engaging the community. But of course, the community needs to also have some kind of trust or guarantees that the decision will be taken accordingly to the snapshot. So there is always this need of constructing as well some kind of constitutional guarantee within the infrastructure, so that you can provide more confidence to the community that the system will actually operate as expected.
Marvellous. Thank you. That was a really interesting answer. I am just about to wrap up. We've got some questions. Some of them are specifically for Marina, really, because they're about our governance approach and our DAO. We've got some great questions about quadratic voting, what we're doing about weighted voting, and so on. So what I'd suggest is that as we mentioned before, we have the governance channel in Discord. All our governance experts will be in there answering questions, and we can pick up straight away with a discussion there. So for the governance questions, I think head over to Discord, because we are actually running out of time as well. But we've got one question, and Justin, I'm going to put this one to you. It's not DAO specific. It is about partnerships. Do we have another future partner for the project? What would you like to say about partnerships?
Oh, wow. Do we have another single future partner? We have a huge number of partners lined up. In fact, a couple of our biggest we've just signed in the last few days that are going to be announced. And it feels, I mean, we've just sort of hit this exponential growth in partnerships. One of the applications on Boson Protocol, Boson Portal, which most people will be familiar with, is this kind of commerce marketplace in Decentraland, is now just been appointed like strategic partner by Decentraland for providing commerce. And there are a huge number of sort of brands, both big and small, coming in to participate in that. Also, in sort of the background, we're integrating with a whole load of other metaverses and other Web3 partners. So, I think watch this space. You're going to see a huge uptick in the number of partners, and that will kind of be consistent.
Yeah, fantastic answer. Thanks. Okay, so just to say again, we look forward to seeing you in Discord. If you've got questions about anything, we're all in there all the time, ready to chat to you. So come over to Discord when you can. Do remember to vote in the snapshot. Primavera, thank you so much for sharing your extensive knowledge with us tonight. It's been amazing. Justin and Gregor, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Do you have any final message before we go to the fireside chat?
Well, just to say thank you, Prima, and as always, Rhian. Great to have you here. I think just one final point would be, Boson was founded on this purpose to make commerce open, fair, and equitable. And Gregor and I also went through the crypto winter when we had so-called kind of crypto investors and VCs saying, why are you building a protocol? Blockchain is dead. pivot to a software as a service model. And we didn't then, because we had this vision of creating something that would enable this fair and equitable outcome. And as you know, as Gregor said as well, you know, the only way we know of enabling that is through a decentralized system and through decentralized governance. And so we are as focused on that as we were, you know, several years ago when we met and decided upon this. So, and it's just great to have the likes of Prima and Silke, who couldn't make it today, and Marina, these great minds working with us to fathom that, you know, that really complex subject of decentralized governance.
Great note to end the panel on. Great panel. Thank you all so much. And now, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to move to the last section, which is our fireside chat. Really, really happy to have you here. Mike, we've got Mike Charalambous of Threedium. Is it Threedium or Thridium?
Threedium, but you can pronounce it in any way that makes sense. We respond to everything.
Cool. Thank you so much for joining us today. So to set the context of why you're here and explain to the community, we were really excited last week to formally announce that Threedium are recipients of a Boson Protocol ecosystem grant to work on something really exciting, the creation of digital physical twins. So Mike, could you just introduce yourself and say a few words about who you are and what Threedium does?
Absolutely. First of all, a pleasure to be here. Very exciting to you know, spending more and more time with you guys. I think what Boson is building, and with the V2 protocol coming, we will be going into a whole new era of meta commerce, and we're just over the moon to help contribute into this new phase. So I'm Mike. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO of Threedium. Threedium is a company based in the UK with 50 people. We have also offices in Serbia and the States, and our mission is to be able to democratize the creation and the distribution of digital assets and immersive experiences across e-commerce, omni-channel, and the metaverse. We work with many brands and many agencies, such as LVMH, McCann, Farfetch, Diageo, Asics, Adidas. We help them to digitalize their products and create all sorts of different 3D and AR experiences to enhance their conversions and commercial engagements with their customers, and we are able to help them basically tap into any sort of metaverse channel to commercialize and sell their products to avatars as well.
Cool, really cool. And what does the Boson grant mean for Threedium as a company?
As I mentioned in the beginning, the reason we are super excited about this partnership, this grant, is for our ability to finally create the supply chain of the metaverse. We want to be able, alongside with Boson, to provide this end-to-end platform for the brands and for the average users out there, even for creators that are coming out of the uni, to be able to have equal chances of digitalizing their products, creating all sorts of different immersive experiences, and be able to sell them and commercially, use them within the metaverse to be able to generate revenue opportunities, to be able to bridge the gap between avatars and real life consumers, with minimum effort, minimum understanding of the Web3, minimum budgets required to be able to physically redeem digital products that they can create and sell.
Cool. And speaking of the metaverse, I've just got one eye on my other monitor where I'm there in Decentraland watching everything going on. It's sometimes very easy to forget that we're so early in the metaverse, and creating immersive experiences is so important to bring people in and get them excited about it. Where are we now in the evolution of the metaverse, do you think? And how do you see things evolving over the next few years?
Look, I think, as you know, the standard and most cliche response is that we are too early, and that is fact, correct, right? All the brands we work with are still like dipping their toes into the water. They're still examining what the metaverse is, what is the true definition of the metaverse, to which extent, what is the threshold that they can go into the metaverse without deteriorating their Web2 brand equity. Also coming into space with an ability to have a long-term plan. All these things are fairly new and fairly unknown for the big brands. And let's face it, if the big brands do not navigate into the metaverse, it's not going to have the long-lived, prosperity that we hope it's going to have. So it's our mission, 3Dium, Boson, and everybody in this space who's been crawling and grinding for years to guarantee that they're going to have a smooth transition into this world. What we keep telling to the brands is that metaverse can be anything, and metaverse is not just nice, colorful rainbows and cloud worlds. It's the era where consumers, users, place equal value to digital ownership as they do to physical ownership. And once brands embrace that, and they can understand that their digital goods, their digital twins, their ability to utilize Boson Protocol to certify and authenticate digital goods to be able to sell them through the metaverse, that's where they're going to start understanding the power, the utility, and of course the ability to maximize their engagement and revenue opportunities, both to physical consumers, but also to avatar consumers. And that's where we're going to be start seeing metaverse becoming a complete new economy, and we're going to be seeing the formation of dual economies. I think it's going to be very critical, and it's very exciting. Now, whether there's going to be, Decentraland or Sandbox or any other new metaverse world that is going to appear, the one that is going to prevail above all, we don't know yet. Of course, accessibility, interoperability are going to be key. But the important thing is for the brands to be able to understand the utility that they're about to create, and how they can use technologies and protocols such as Boson to be able to mitigate the risk factor of users being afraid to use their wallets to make transactions in the metaverse, and mitigating the element of rack pulls, because with the contribution of Boson, we are able to actually provide a much more secure environment for any kind of avatar, any kind of user to be able to transact, even with large amounts of money, to even be able to purchase a Maserati or even a house in real life, because of the ability to add this secure payment structure and physical redemption in real life.
Amazing answer, really visionary. To bring it right back to practical terms, a question that I really wanted to ask you, and you mentioned cars actually. I was curious about the types of products that you found most challenging to reproduce in 3D. I used to work on car configurators, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if you were going to list cars as something that were challenging. But what types of objects have been difficult?
Cars are definitely one of the worst, most painful processes to be able to digitalize and bring to life. That's because it has so many different details, especially interior, that can take forever for modelers to be able to basically spend enough time and be able to have an accurate representation. The other difficult product that I would say it's always a nightmare for us when we are commissioned to do it. It's when it comes to garments that entail textures such as fur, such as mink, because especially when it comes to real-time low poly 3D rendering, so that you can get those assets to be able to have interactivity within browsers, these intrinsic details really require a lot of attention, and sometimes it's just the low poly element is not enough to be able to provide a very photorealistic look and feel. So this is something that we're always looking to spend a lot of time, a lot of R&D to be able to constantly improve and enhance. And then sometimes very high-end luxury items and accessories such as watches with open back and mechanism that is a bit too complex, those could take time as well, because there's a lot of attention to detail required to be able to keep the luxury brands happy and able to use those 3D assets to enhance their e-commerce and metaverse play.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I could ask you about that for ages, but as time's short, I guess I'd better move on to another question, which kind of follows on from this one. So in terms of things like resolution and detail, we all know that these different metaverses differ from each other. To just wrap up the conversation, could you talk a little bit about interoperability and what this means in terms of things looking slightly different in different metaverses?
Yeah, well, I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, right now, as the situation is, different decentralized metaverses choose to have their own 3D requirements when it comes to digital wearables, when it comes to the way you can showcase 3D assets within the world. We have Sandbox that is following a very 8-bit kind of voxelated 3D approach. We've got Decentraland that is a bit more, it's still animated, but it's trying to replicate real life elements. And then you've got some worlds such as Digital Village that are going to appear on Unreal Engine, or even Somnium that are more VR related, that they're really trying to bring this extreme photorealism in play. There's no right or wrong. Each metaverse, can be whatever they choose to be, and each user can relate with it in its own ways. How we try to solve interoperability is that we are trying from the beginning, whenever we are commissioned from the brands, to be able to visualize the 3D assets, to know exactly which of these metaverse worlds align with their commercial strategies. And by having this information from the beginning and the very first phase of the workflow, we are able to commission our modeling team, our AI to extract different textures, to extract different meshes and models, convert them into the different 3D files that are required for each of those worlds, and then have everything ready into our platform so that the brands come, pick them up, and choose which those 3D models are going to be distributing across different metaverse channels. We are also announcing very soon our Meta Marketplace. You've heard it here first. We're basically creators are going to be able to come in, find all sorts of different products which are suitable for all sorts of different metaverses. They're going to be blank models. You can come, take them, upload them onto our platform, create their own designs, own textures, and then serve them and start selling wearables across the different metaverse marketplaces. Wow,
that's super cool. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, and hoping there are some people listening tonight that will want to get stuck into that. That's really exciting.
Great alpha.
Yeah. Now, we unfortunately could talk to you for ages. We're running out of time. So I just want to thank you so much for the chat. It's been really interesting. We're all really looking forward to working with 3DM, and talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thanks. Absolutely. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks so much,
Mike. And we're going to make it.
Of course, we're going to make it.
Bye, guys.
See. So that wraps up tonight. As a reminder, we're shortly going to be launching the second wave of our grants program, and we're looking for ambassadors too. These are both things that the community can vote on. So please do get involved with the DAO. Come and join us in Discord, vote on Snapshot, read the page on our Notion. Come and join us. It's been a great event. We're looking forward to seeing more of you in the future. Look out for the next dCommerce Meetup. And also we'll be starting to have regular community chats as well. So check our Discord. Bye.